as usual, you probably want a couple blocks. If you don't have yoga blocks, don't worry. You can get a couple thick books. Those work pretty well. For what we're going to be using them for, though, you might do just as well with a couple pillows, like firm pillows, like maybe from your couch, not necessarily like your bed pillows. Something a little bit firm and two the same size, roughly. You might also want a blanket of some kind. This would mostly be used to pad under the knees when we're doing things with the knees down on the floor. That might be nice. Just going to adjust this a little bit. And as usual, also, you might like to have a strap handy or something similar that you can use as a strap. That's not as crucial for today, but something that's often nice to have around. So once you have everything ready, come to your mat, and we're actually going to start lying down. So make sure you have those two props. It's possible to do this whole opening part of class without any props, and some people might actually prefer it without the props, the way I'm going to show. So it's up to you, as with everything, to decide for yourself what you want to use as props. You might not want to use props at all. We're going to be starting in a position called Supta Baddha Konasana. So I'm going to show it from this side. If you think you might want to use those props, have them next to you. And come to lie down. When you lie down at first, just hug the knees in gently for a moment, just to make sure you're releasing the lower back towards the floor. Then bring the feet down, and here the lower back might arch up off the floor when you do that. That's fine. You're going to bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees fall apart. And this is the position when you would decide if you want to try props or not. If you have blocks, you can angle them so they're propping outside your outer legs. And you'll notice I tilt the block so that the leg is resting on a flat surface of the block instead of the corner. So it's a little more comfy. You don't have to do it that way. You might put the blocks in closer. You might put them farther out. You might turn them to a different height. You can even do something like this if you want them higher, or your pillows. Or as I mentioned before, there might be some people who are fine without any props at all under the legs. It got kind of dark in here, so now just let me turn on the lights. Good. Once you're comfortable with your prop situation under the legs, just take a couple breaths and then slowly bring the arms up to the position we call cactus arms. So the arms are straight out from the shoulders, elbows bent, and palms up. And then you'll just be resting there for a few moments. And once we get started, you'll be also doing some breath practice in this position. So just take a moment at first to observe your breath without trying to change it or do anything. Just observe how your breath is treating you these days, today. And I'm just going to try to block the door with something. Okay. Observing the breath can tell you a lot about how you're doing. Usually, we breathe fairly shallowly when we're not thinking about the breath. That's pretty much okay. Normally, if we're not super active It's fine to be breathing shallowly, as long as we're aware of that kind of breathing and what it's doing or not doing for us. So a couple moments just observing the breath. And then we'll start a specific breath practice. Reach your arms up overhead, palms up, and then reach the arms out to the side, circle all the way down so your arms are alongside your body. And then bring the hands up to right around the middle of the rib cage. So not the waist where the soft tissue is, but up where you can feel the ribs on the sides. And this is just for a moment. You don't have to keep your hands here the whole time. Just for a moment, you're just going to observe how you can expand outward through the rib cage when you inhale. And then on your exhale, the ribs close up a little bit. So just take a couple breaths, really trying to make that happen with the breath. Not trying to make it happen because we're expanding the rib cage, but because we're breathing in this way, the rib cage is expanding. After a couple moments like that, just release the arms down alongside you and rest for a few more breaths in Supta Baddha Konasana. And we'll come back to that rib action when we sit up. So this position, especially with the arms out, palms up, can feel a little vulnerable. That's normal. Part of our goal, or maybe a benefit of yoga practice, is that it gives us a chance to engage with maybe difficult feelings in a safe setting. So instead of feeling vulnerable in a dangerous setting where we might panic or lash out, we can experience feeling vulnerable in a relatively safe setting. Hopefully you're in a safe setting right now. And sit with the feeling and learn how to deal with it so that when we're off the mat, maybe we can deal with those difficult feelings in a less reactive way. So in this way, yoga is a practice of engagement, even though it might feel like we're almost kind of spoiled being able to do yoga, go take an hour for ourselves, lying down on the floor, when there's so much going on in the world. Maybe sometimes feels a little selfish, but we all need that moment to sort of step back and use a little practice, taking care of our feelings, and, as I said, maybe learning how to accept them and deal with them without immediately going into a panic mode or anger. I mentioned before that we're going to have a very healing practice today, so it's not going to be too intense in terms of like flipping upside down in lotus pose or balancing on our hands. It's more about experiencing our breath and experiencing our breath in different poses. And healing, can mean different things for different people. Most important, though, I think, as an individual, to think of it from the inside out. So that's why we work with the breath first and then go into some movements and poses. So it's not just coming from the outside looking in saying like, oh, your knee's not bent enough, whatever. It's coming from within you, so you're healing yourself. Yoga cannot heal illnesses, it cannot heal broken bones, but it is a process that might help you be more healthy in your body and your heart and soul. So reaching down towards the legs with the hands, you can move them closer to you if you need to. You're going to bring your hands to the outer legs and just use your hands to help fold the legs up together. So the feet are flat on the floor again, and you're just resting for a moment. And then hug the knees in towards the chest again. Move the props away from you so you can safely roll over onto one side and come up to sit. Once you're up, you're going to sit any comfortable position. That's going to be different for everyone. If you need to sit on a chair, go sit on a chair or bring a chair over to where you're practicing. I'm going to sit in a pose called Virasana, which means I'm going to use a block. I'm going to put the block between my heels. My knees are together, feet apart, and I'm sitting on the block. This is comfortable for me. It might not be comfortable for you, in which case you sit cross-legged or any other position that allows you to sit up tall. Once you've arrived in your comfortable seated position, once again, close your eyes for a few breaths. We're going to start a little bit of a breath practice now, going back to that idea of expanding the ribs outward on the inhale and letting them close up a little bit on the exhale. So now if you bring your hands around your outer ribs, right, like the webbing between your thumb and your index finger, right around the outer ribs, and just take a couple more breaths, just feeling that movement as you inhale, expanding. Now that we're sitting up, you might feel the expansion more, especially in the back because your back's not on the floor anymore. So really try to expand outward in all directions as you inhale. And then as you exhale, you'll notice the ribs maybe close up a little bit. After a couple breaths, holding onto the ribs, just rest the hands down on your lap. And then we'll continue breathing like this a few more times. Eventually, we'll add a count to the breath. But at first, you can do this with your eyes closed, just inhaling, again, thinking of expanding outward with each inhale, and each exhale, expanding upward and downward. Okay, so inhale, expanding out, all directions, engaging with the world. Exhale, lengthening, so the crown of the head goes up, and maybe the sitting bones or your seat goes down a little bit. So that feeling of maybe lengthening in the core, and then continue. So inhaling, expand out. Exhaling, expand vertically. As always, without overdoing or exaggerating, just letting it happen. Instead of imposing something on the breath, let it come from the breath itself. Now we're going to add a little count to the breath. I'm going to count 4 to inhale and 4 to exhale. I'm not going to go too fast. I'm not going to go too slowly. So if it's not the right rate of breathing for you, in other words, you start to feel like you're out of breath, of course, you can always breathe more frequently or faster than I'm leading. Otherwise, we'll try for a few breaths. We're actually going to do 8 breath cycles, 8 inhale, exhale. So just taking a nice big breath. And the next inhale, The time between the dinging of the bell was about 8 minutes and 45 seconds. Let's go back to a big inhale on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Last one, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. And slowly open your eyes if you close them. Whenever I ask you to close your eyes, it's only if you're comfortable closing your eyes. You never have to close your eyes. So we're going to stretch out the arms, big inhale, and then all the way up, reaching tall. Exhale, bring the right hand down to the floor by your side. Inhale the left arm up even more, and then exhale. Take a big side stretch over to your right. So the right arm is soft. It can bend. You don't have to jam the palm down into the floor or anything, just taking a few breaths, stretching over. Take that top arm and go ahead and wrap it around behind your back. So you're still doing your same side bend, but now the arm is just dropping behind the back. And turn the head down to look towards your right hand and just let the neck go. So maybe the head dips down a little bit. You can roll it a tiny bit side to side, finding any tightness in the neck that you can release. Come upright again. Inhale, arms out and up, and then exhale the left hand down. Inhale, right arm straight up, and then exhale, side bend over to the other side. Again, you can be on the fingertips of the bottom hand. Elbow can be bent a little bit. As you go, you might go a little bit more into the side bend so you don't want this arm to be too rigid. And then stay in that side bend, just drape that top arm behind the back. And then slowly turn the head to look down towards the hand on that side. Good. And slowly come up. Inhale, arms out and up again. And exhale all the way back down. Good. We're going to come right up into a tabletop position. I'm going to do everything a little bit angled to the side and mirroring you. So you might notice I always have a little something extra under the knees for padding. This is what you might want to use your blanket for. I have an extra yoga mat, so I'm using that if your knees bother you. So at first, maybe just stretch out the legs a couple times like so. And then come to your tabletop. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. And we'll start with cow and cat a few times. So inhale, arch the back, look up, point the tailbone up. And then exhale, cat spine, push the floor away, drop the head, drop the tailbone. And continue a few more times. Let's go into, if it's comfortable for you, closing the eyes and taking a big inhale on cow through the nose. And then on your cat, open the mouth and let it sigh out through the mouth on your exhale. Big inhale through the nose and cow, and then exhale. You can make a sound or just make a big sigh on your exhale each time you go to your cat spine. Inhale for cow. Exhale, cat. A couple more times, inhaling and exhaling. If you're comfortable doing it with your eyes closed, you continue with your eyes closed. Otherwise, you can always open them to check out what I'm going to be doing next. It's very simple though. Again, we're going to inhale for cow. And then on your exhale, as you go to cat, stretch the right leg back. Arch that spine up. Round it up towards the ceiling as you press through the back heel. Bring the right knee forward and inhale for cow again. Exhale. Same thing now, left leg reaching back. So you're just trying to really dome up. Inhale for cow, doming up through the spine on your cat as one leg stretches back. And then continue a few more times, just alternating your legs on your cat spine. And then coming back to cow. Inhale. Oop, I did my leg too fast. Inhale, exhale. So you should feel when you're doing your cat spine with the leg back that you really press through the ball of that back foot. So don't bring the leg too close in. You want to really reach it back and try to press through the ball of the foot. A couple more times. And then come back to your table in a neutral spine. So right in between cow and cat, you should find a neutral spine. The spine has its natural curves, but you're not overemphasizing one direction or the other. Think of, instead of lengthening from the crown of the head through the tailbone, have your feet pointed and go back to child's pose. Just letting the hips drop back towards the heels and stretching the arms out in front. Good. Come back up out of your child's pose for a moment. We're going to go back into a variation of child's pose. You're going to have your blocks or props, whatever you're using, in front of you. And then separate the knees wide apart, but keep the big toes touching behind you. And then when you come back, make sure those props are comfortably within reach, shoulder width apart in front of you. You're going to come back with your arms up on the blocks. So see how my elbow is kind of in the center of the block? The hands are reaching beyond the block. So at the same time you're reaching forward, you're also trying to lower the head and even the center of the chest, the sternum, down towards the floor in between the blocks. So essentially you're getting the arms to be going behind your head a little bit. So that might feel pretty intense. It might feel like you even need something under your head to support, in which case take a folded up piece of blanket and just tuck it under there so your head is not dangling if it feels like it's not kind of, if it's not comfortable kind of dangling in air. You could also want to go more into it. In other words, stretch the arms behind the head even more. So it's going to get into the triceps, the underarm area, maybe down even onto the sides, into your lats. You could turn these blocks up to a higher position, like so, and then place the elbows on them. And then again, coming down. You could do this with your arms straight, like you just did, or you can bend the elbows, bring the hands together behind your neck. And then again, release the weight of the body down. So using your breath to try to release a little bit more down each time. If it becomes too intense, you just straighten the arms again, get your hands down. You can just go back to child's pose with the arms on nothing for a few breaths. And then slowly come back up. I'm going to go back to our tabletop. Setting up in a very stable position. Stable for now, because now we're going to lift the right knee up off the floor. So notice when you do that, you start to shift way over to the other side. It's natural to try to hold the weight. So you want to maybe resist that urge a little bit, trying to stay in the same place with the upper body and the hips, just lifting one knee up. And then make some circles out to the side with that right knee. A few times one way and a few times the other way. And you're going to straighten that leg out to the side. Turn the toes out to your right side and straighten the leg. You're going to walk the hands back until you're standing up on this left shin. So the right leg, this straight leg out to the side, it might be a little bit in front. In other words, if my left knee is here, this is about directly 90 degrees out to the side. That might feel okay for you, but you might want to rather have it angle a slight bit forward. As you want to have it, so it's not being too intense on that right hip. So find your spot where you can have it comfortably out to the side, but you don't feel like you're going too far there. You're standing up vertically on that left thigh. I'm going to do a version of a pose called Parigasana. Usually we have this bottom hand down. We're not going to let that bottom hand come down onto this leg. So it might not be the deepest Parigasana ever. So basically you're going to be doing a side stretch towards your right side. So inhale the left arm up, and then as you exhale over to the right side, just let that right arm drape behind your back. For a moment, turn the face up towards the ceiling, any amount, looking in front of that left arm. And then turn the head the other way, looking down at the right leg. And release the neck any amount you can. Inhale back up. Bring the other arm behind your back. So you're holding on to opposite forearms behind your back. And just going to stay upright and just roll the neck. Just letting the head roll in front, side to side a few times. I'm not a believer in rolling the head back. Okay, just keep it in front. The most I go is to the middle of the shoulder. So my ear towards the shoulder on one side, that's where I stop. And then I go the other way, just a few times. From here, bring the hands in front of you again. Plant the hands down. Your right hand, you might just stay on the fingertips, or you could start with the palm down and then go to the fingertips. You're going to take that right leg and swing it straight back behind you. And then you're starting to turn to the right a little bit. So the left arm stays straight, and you might come up onto the fingertips of your right hand. Then bring that right foot down to the floor behind you. Trying to get the whole sole of the foot on the floor. We're going to come to a modified side plank position. So the left arm is straight, it's under the shoulder or maybe a tiny bit in front. And this left knee is on the floor. If you need to, for balance, you can angle the shin out behind you a little bit. Otherwise, you're just going to come to face completely to your right side and bring the right arm straight up. You can stay here or reach that right arm overhead. Just take a couple breaths there. Then take the right arm and let it drape back behind you. The next part, completely optional. If you're feeling strong in the upper body, you might try to lift this bottom knee off the floor. You might lift it up in front of you. You might go back and forth a few times. Or once. Or none. And then reach that right arm up, forward, and circle it all the way back down. Facing the floor, come back to tabletop. Once again, inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Now we're going to do our other side. Actually, we're not. Stick that right leg back out, right where it was. This is actually the best part. I just left it out. So you're going to inhale for cow with that right leg out to the side. So right where it was a few moments ago. And then on your exhale, as you go to your cat spine, see if you can go back towards a little bit like a child's pose on this one leg while the other one is stretched out to the side. And if you need to come up onto the back of the heel, you can do that. Or if you can keep the toes pointed, you keep them pointed. And just resting down for a moment. Half child's pose variation, stretching the arms in front. Then slowly we'll crawl yourself back forward. Come back to your tabletop. We'll do a cow and a cat again. And then lift the left knee out to the side. I'm going to re-angle myself and circle that knee out to the side a few times. One way and then the other. And then straighten that leg out to the side. Again, it can be directly to the side or a little bit in front. There's no reason to try to get it behind. Okay, and then coming up, standing vertically on this right thigh. We'll do our Parigasana variation on this side. Inhale the right arm up, left hand goes behind the back as you exhale over into a little bit of a Parigasana. You don't have this hand to support, so it might feel like I don't want to go that far because I don't have anything to support me. So it's working with a little bit of the, fear of not having that support and maybe finding it elsewhere, finding it in your core. And then look up in front of that arm. And then, you're going to stay in your side bend and look down at that leg as well and release the neck. Inhale up to vertical. Hold on to opposite forearms behind your back. And again, just rolling the head a little bit side to side. All right, now we're going to go into our modified side plank on this side. So hands down in front of you. The left hand might stay a little bit light. Swing that left leg back behind you, starting to turn to face towards your left side and plant that foot down. Trying to get the whole sole of the foot down and then turning completely sideways into your modified side plank. Again, for balance, you can angle the bottom shin back behind you a little bit. Arms stretching wide apart. Or you can try over the left ear, stretching forward. And then take that arm, drape it behind your back. And again, totally optional, trying to lift the bottom knee off the floor. Doing a couple little chicken wing kind of things here. Or just staying in a nice, relaxing, modified side plank. Good. Take that left arm up and over, circle it down, and plant it down on the floor again. Bring the left leg back to that Parigasana position, directly out to your side. Inhale to a cow spine here, and then exhale towards a child's pose on that one leg with your straight leg out to the side. Your foot position is up to you. I like to keep the foot pointed. It's also good to flex it up. There's no bad choice there. And then slowly coming forward, swing that leg back, coming back to your tabletop. Once again, inhale cow, exhale cat, and back to child's pose. And rest in your child's pose a few breaths. And then come back up to your tabletop. Make sure you have some room in front of you on your mat or whatever space you're practicing in. You're going to come to a pose called puppy pose. So from your tabletop, you're going to keep the hips back over the knees or even a tiny bit behind and stretch the arms forward so you can bring the upper body down in line with the arms. That's like a little mini downward facing dog. Stretching nice and long through the spine. Once you have enough, you can plant the forearms down in front of you. Bring the shoulders over the elbows. And we're going to come to a forearm plank. Stretch one leg straight back, and then the other leg straight back. A couple times, we're going to lift the legs off the floor, okay? So if you ever need to take a break, you just take a break. Bring the feet close together And then lift the right leg up, point the toes, and stretch it back. Put that foot down and pick up the left foot and stretch that left leg back. So you're gonna do that a couple times, thinking each time of stretching the leg back, seeing if you can get a feeling of stretching all the way up into the core. So you're lengthening the core into that more stretched out, lengthened vertical position, like when we were seated, when you were sitting up on your exhale and you felt that lengthening, expanding from the crown of the head and down through the tailbone. So see if you can do that get that same feeling as one leg lifts up and stretches back and then the other. You'll notice I just took a long break to explain that to you, so I hope you took a break too. We'll just try a few more. You can always stop when you need to. Stretch the right leg way back. See if maybe even in the right side of the abdomen, the hip flexor area, you can feel a lengthening there. Maybe one more time each side. And then keep that core cinched nice and tightly as you lower down and come to your Sphinx pose. So here we are. This is our Sphinx pose if you're not familiar. Make sure you also have room in front of you for your arms to move in this way. We're going to do a little bit of a sequence on the floor using our Sphinx, Cobra, and Locust. So just to make sure everyone knows those poses, this is your Sphinx pose. Chest is lifted off the floor, holding yourself up into a little bit of a back bend shape on your forearms. Cobra, the hands are placed further back, but you're still in a very similar position in the upper body. And here in Cobra, you only come up as far as feels okay on your back. Locust, same position, no hand support though, but also the legs are gonna come up off the floor. Okay, so those are the three positions. Sphinx and Cobra have the legs pressing down. Check that your legs are parallel, a little bit apart. They don't have to be touching, but parallel and not turning out. Okay, so the center of the thigh, the center of the top of the foot is pressing into the floor. So I'll talk you through. We'll just do it a couple times. So come to your Sphinx pose. Try to keep that core cinch engagement throughout. This will be an inhale. Each time you inhale, we're going to be lifting up off the floor. Each exhale, you release the head and chest towards the floor a little bit. Try to come down further forward each time. So inhale for Sphinx. Exhale, release as you drag the hands back until they're beside your lower rib cage. Inhale up to Cobra. Lengthen the neck, shoulders rolling down and back. Exhale, release, reaching forward each time, as if you could put your heart further forward on the floor each time. Straighten the hands back. Inhale up to Locust. Stay up. On your exhale, reach the hands forward, palms down, and inhale, slide the elbows back to come back to Sphinx pose. Let's go through it again. Take a breath. Inhale, Sphinx. Exhale, release, slide the hands back. Inhale, Cobra, maybe a little bit higher up if it feels okay. Exhale, release. Straighten arms back. Inhale, Locust. Stay up. Exhale, arms forward, palms down. And inhale back to Sphinx. Very good. And now tuck the toes underneath and push yourself back to child's pose. You're going to walk the knees forward a little bit and push yourself back to child's pose one more time. Take a couple breaths there. I'm going to turn on my fan. It's getting a little hot in here. Okay, from this child's pose, now we're going to come all the way up to our downward facing dog, finally. So walk the hands forward, shoulders over wrists, and then stretch one leg back The other leg back. Come to your high plank. Again, lengthen from the heels through the crown of the head, and then just bending at the hip joint. Keeping the spine as long as you can, come to your downward facing dog. Take a few breaths in your down dog. And then start to pedal out the feet. One heel presses as the other knee bends. And continue pedaling as you walk forward. So walking the feet forward towards the hands, and also walk the hands back towards the feet. Either way, you're going to come into a soft forward fold. Once the feet are underneath you, have some width between the feet. Keep the knees bent and just dangle over your legs. Shake out the head, yes and no. You can keep the arms just dangling down to the floor, or you can hold opposite elbows if that feels better. Let the arms swing back and forth. You can also flutter out the lips like a horse. Sounds sort of like very, very good for relaxing the face. If you're holding opposite elbows, eventually switch the fold of the elbows and continue dangling. A few more breaths. And then release the arms, sit back even more, bending the knees even more. Bring your hands onto your legs above the kneecap and slowly press yourself up to stand. Good. Coming to your Tadasana, standing up nice and tall. Adjust that a little bit. So you might want to have your blocks handy close to the front of the mat if you think you might need them. If you're not sure, just put them there and you'll see. So come to the front of your space, wherever you're practicing, standing up nice and tall in Tadasana. Inhale the arms out and up, reaching tall, and then exhale, fold forward, reaching for the floor. You can always bend the knees here if you need to, or you can play with straightening the legs a little bit. Inhale as you lift halfway up, torso parallel to the floor, and exhale, fold again. Bend the knees and step the right leg all the way back to a low lunge position. You might pad underneath your knee. You're going to drop that right knee to the floor and come up to your crescent lunge position. So crescent lunge, the front knee is over the front foot, hopefully not falling to the side. And the back leg is stretched back, knee down, toe pointed. You can either stay here with the hands on the front knee. If you do, just turn the fingers forward, or inhale the arms all the way up. Lifting the torso up to vertical first, lengthen, and then maybe tip a little bit back into a slight back bend, lifting the sternum up. And then exhale, hands on the floor, either side of the front foot. Tuck the back toes and straighten out that back leg. And then plant that right foot down to the side and a little bit out to the right side. We're going to come up to warrior one first. Okay, so facing straight ahead, upper body still facing straight ahead. The pelvis wants to turn though, because this back leg is pulling it back, right? So as much as possible, you're going to steer that right hip forward, pull left hip back a little bit as needed to try to square off forward as much as you can. Inhale the arms all the way up. From here, we're going to open up to the right side into warrior two. Now this front hip is getting opened up, right? As much as possible, squaring off the pelvis to the side now. Notice I said as much as possible. For most people, there still has to be a little bit of an angle forward with the hips. That's totally normal. Looking over your left hand, let's hold warrior two a few breaths. Just thinking again, every inhale expand outward in every direction. And then every exhale, ground down through the feet, lifting up through the head without coming out of the legs. Good. Next inhalation, reach back. Reach down the back leg, left arm arcs up and over, reverse warrior, and then exhale, come forward, left hand on the left thigh. You can come to your extended side angle here. If you want to try putting your hand down on a block or the floor, just make sure you have a long enough pose that when you do that, you're not breaking the pose in half. So if you're not sure, just keep your hand up here, like you're holding something in a platter on your left hand. And then again, for a couple breaths, stay with the back arm, the top arm draped behind your back. Maybe turning to look up towards the ceiling. And then untwist and put your hands on the floor either side of your front foot and step that back foot forward to come to your forward fold once again. Bend the knees quite a lot, sitting back, hands on the legs above the kneecap, and lift the torso up to a neutral spine, and then push yourself up to stand. Inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, fold forward once again. Inhale, halfway up, reaching the top of the head forward again, and then exhale, release all the way down. Bend the knees as needed. Step the left foot all the way back. And then I'm going to drop that left knee to the floor. I'm going to swivel my ankle to the side. So your left knee's on the floor, toes are pointed, and come up to your crescent lunge. You can stay here with the hands on the front knee, or inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Lengthen the torso first, straight up, any amount, and then maybe, if it feels okay, try a little bit of that back bend, lifting the sternum up. The back bend is happening in the upper spine. Don't think of trying to do it in the lower back too much. And then exhale all the way down either side of your front foot. Tuck the back toes and straighten out that back leg. Plant down that left foot out to the side and maybe 45 degrees or so pointing forward. And then come up to your warrior one. Again, facing forward as much as possible, including this hip. Maybe you have to kind of encourage it, steer it forward. This one pulls back a little bit. Pressing down through the outer edge of the back foot. If you like, you can inhale the arms up for your full warrior one. Then we're going to open to warrior two. Again, front knee stays over the front ankle, so you don't want it to fall forward at all. So if you need to, if this is too tight right here, that's when you turn the pelvis a little bit forward. You don't force it to go straight back to be square to the side. Just let it be where it needs to be. Looking over your right hand, looking forward. Few breaths in your warrior two. I know from the angle of the camera, it looks like my arms are like kind of this. It's really arms parallel to the floor, horizontal. Looking over that right hand, again, thinking of expanding out on your inhalation and cinching, lengthening the spine on your exhalation. One more breath, and then inhale, reverse warrior. And exhale, extended side angle. So now your right hand can rest on that right thigh. Left arm goes straight up, reaches over the ear. Couple breaths there, and then take that top arm and once again drape it around behind the back. Turn the face up towards the ceiling, if that's okay on your neck. If it doesn't feel good, you can look forward or even release the neck looking down. Just make sure if you do release the head down that you're not turning the whole chest. You can keep the chest turning as the head goes. That might even help you turn the chest more. You never know. Slowly cartwheel those hands back. Swivel onto the ball of the back foot. Now, this time we're going to step the front foot back to downward facing dog. Take a moment in your down dog, stretching it out. And now, you're going to bring the feet together. Walk them a little bit forward, maybe a quarter of the way forward or so in your down dog. Bend the knees. As you walk the hands back, let the knees come apart until you come into this little mini squat position. So this is a pose called Malasana. For most people, myself included, the heels are off the floor. Totally normal. So you can do the pose without propping under the heels. It just makes it hard to balance. So I suggest taking that blanket or a firm pillow if you have that instead, and putting it under your heels. You can roll it to whatever height you need so that you can release the heels down. Try to keep the inner edges of the feet together. And then once you have the heels on something, you can actually start to come down a little bit more. So this is the leg position for Malasana or garland pose. For some people, you might just want to stay here, reaching the arms forward. Let's all do that first, actually. You're just reaching the arms forward, thinking of the upper body reaching forward as well. It's impossible to do this pose without rounding the back a little bit. Usually in a forward fold, I would tell you don't round the back. But here, you're going to round the back a little bit. It's okay. Unless you have a herniation or a similar issue, then you'll know. Maybe just stay up like this, okay? You don't want to round. Otherwise, a little bit of rounding can be fine. Now, you can either stay reaching the hands forward, or you can try the arm position as well, which means you tuck the arms back. So my arm is coming in front of the inner knee, going in front of the shin and reaching back towards the outer ankle or maybe the heel on that side. And then you try the same thing with the other hand. And then this part, the more you curl and round the spine, the more the arms can reach back. So garland pose looks like this, just silly little, curling up into a ball kind of pose. But there's a lot of power in it. I always associate it with we're using our own strength to hold us together. There are other poses like this, like eagle pose, where you're wrapping yourself around yourself and your strength is what holds you together. So try it for a couple breaths. You can drop the head any amount. The more you reach back, you might be able to actually kind of interlace the fingers behind the backs of the heels. Or someday I dream of doing that. Take a couple more breaths. And then from here, you can walk the hands forward again, put the knees down, and then just sit off to one side and come to sit all the way down on the floor. If you have any difficulty sitting flat on the floor, in other words, when you sit flat on the floor, there's a lot of tightness in the lower back rounds, you can't really sit up straight. You can always sit on something. So you have your blanket or your cushion. It's not necessary, but if you want to, since it's there, you can always sit up on it. Even if you have no trouble sitting straight up on the floor. It can be nice to just have that anyway. So we're going to come to a straddle position for a moment at first. And sitting up nice and tall, just for a couple breaths. Start to walk the fingers forward any amount. So here we are going to keep the spine as long and straight as possible. So it's not about going down to the floor. It's about reaching forward any amount. Coming up onto the fingertips, walking those hands forward. Crawl, 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 crawl. Good. And then slowly come back up. Fold in your right leg. We're going to turn a little bit towards the left leg. So we're going to stretch first just straight over that leg, but just gently. We're going to go further in a moment, so don't go to your maximum forward fold here. Inhale, come up to sit. So we're going to stay upright for a moment and come to a twist towards the left side. So your right hand is going to reach to the outside of the left leg. You're sitting up straight and just twisting around. And then as we go forward, how far forward you go is totally up to you. You're just going to slide that right hand down the outer left leg any amount. Might go an inch. You might go halfway to the calf. Right, your left hand is going to wrap around behind your back. So you can stop at any point. You want to try to keep the spine long and just doing a little corkscrew around itself. The left shoulder going back, keeping this front of the left shoulder open. So this hand reaching more around is going to help keep that open. And then you might reach down all the way to the foot, or you might not. Or if you want to try, you could loop the strap around your foot and hold onto the strap like that. I don't really recommend the strap though, because then it's hard to get, you lose a little bit of the twist when you use the strap. So I would say, unless you really love using the strap, just keep your hand on the outer leg, wherever it lands. It might be just right here. It's a good twist. And slowly release. Face forward, stretch out that right leg, and bring in the left. So the sole of the foot touches the inner thigh here. Face towards your right leg and just a little fold. Doesn't have to be a big deal. And then inhale, sitting up again, we're going to do our twist. So the right hand can be on the floor at first. Left hand crosses over to the outside of the right leg. And then you're just going to start to move it down any amount. As you start to go forward with the upper body, you're going to go more into your twist as well. Right? You're turning towards the right. That's when this hand might go behind your back because you don't need it so much for supporting. Going in towards your twist. Right shoulder going up so the front of the shoulder stays open. This hand wrapping around. You can even do this little pull on the hand if you want. And then maybe reaching to the foot. Maybe the ankle, anywhere on that outer right leg. And a couple more breaths. Come up, face forward, and then we'll go down to lie on the floor once again. And you have that cushion or pillow handy. Now is when you might want to use it. Yes. I happen to have this, which is a yoga bolster. If you happen to have a yoga bolster handy, you can use a yoga bolster, but really any pillow or even your rolled up blanket is going to be fine for what we're going to do. First though, you're not using it, you're just coming down onto the floor and hugging the knees in. Keep the knees hugging in nice and tight, and then just drop them over to one side. So the knees are kind of curling up, right? So you're almost bringing them up towards the arm on that side. Just for a gentle supine twist. You can keep the face up towards the ceiling, or even maybe turn it a little bit towards the other side. The hand on the side of the legs, you can put that on top. Just encourage those Legs to go down towards the floor any amount more that they can. And then slowly roll onto your back once again, keeping the knees hugged in nice and tightly. Let them fall over to the other side. Take your time, eventually rolling back onto your back. And here's where you might want that pillow. You're going to tuck it right underneath your hamstrings. We're going to come to a pose called constructive rest for a little while. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing right now, so let me adjust this a little bit again. Get a good look. So it's a position called constructive rest. It's possible to do it without any props at all, but if you happen to have something like this, I find it super comfy. This is a resting pose, so why not be super comfy? You're going to bend your knees and bring them in close enough so whatever prop you're using, if you're using a prop, you feel it kind of tucked underneath your legs. The feet are wide apart and the knees fall in together. And then you'll just rest here for a moment, arms down on the floor, palms up. So as I said, if you don't have a pillow that would really fill the bill, you can do this without any props at all. And it would just look like this. And the legs rest against each other. The idea is to find a place where the legs really feel like they're holding each other up in a way, and you're not having to work to hold the legs in this position. So play around for a moment until you feel that sort of effortlessness in the lower body. And then we're just going to do a few more moments of breath practice. For a moment, just take your hands and put your hands on your lower belly. So the pinky side edge of your hand is right in the hip crease. And just resting the hands there. First, just observing the breath again. Since we were just moving around and doing things, maybe the breath got a little bit excited. And now that you're lying still, it's starting to slow down a little bit again. You might notice, and this has apparently been proven to be true scientifically, that your inhale can be a little bit energizing or enlivening, and the heart actually beats faster when you inhale. And then when you exhale, it's a little more calming, a little more soothing. The heart actually beats more slowly when you exhale. So with the hands on the lower belly, we're going to practice a little bit of what's called belly breath. So you might notice that when you inhale, the belly rises a little bit. And then it falls when you exhale. Without trying to make that happen, just see if you can feel that happen with your hands on your lower belly. It's possible when you try that, you don't really feel that because you're still breathing up here, like we did towards the beginning of class. Maybe that's also your natural pattern where you normally breathe. So you just want to try to drop the breath down towards the belly a little bit. And it might not come naturally. It might be kind of tricky to feel that happening. So don't worry if it doesn't happen right away. But that would be a sign to you that maybe you need to work on that a little bit every day, doing a belly breath, because maybe you're kind of stuck breathing in the rib cage, in the upper chest. Otherwise, you're going to keep your hands in the lower belly and continue with your belly breath. So belly breath is a calming and soothing kind of breath. So we don't often do it. Some of us do it more than others. It's actually a very natural way to breathe. It's the way babies breathe. So doing it once in a while on purpose can help us have that calming, soothing feeling. So continue a couple times, and then we'll finally end with counting the breath. This time, we won't do as many rounds. We'll just maybe do 4 rounds. A round is 1 breath cycle, inhale, exhale, so it's not much. On your inhale, you're going to use the count of 4. On the exhale, you're going to count to 6. I'm not going to count this time because I want you to really go inside and feel it happening for yourself. And everyone's going to be going at a slightly different speed. So I don't want to impose my rate onto you. So just begin when you're ready, inhaling for 4, exhaling for 6 counts. And try to keep the counts nice and even. So I'm going to assume it was enough time for everyone to finish. If not, please just take your time to finish over the next few moments, or if you want to do a few more breaths like that. You will be able to continue that. We're just moving to Shavasana, our final relaxation pose. So you can stay in constructive rest for your Shavasana. It might be very comfortable, so that's fine. If you would rather stretch the legs straight out on the floor, you can just move your pillow, if you're using one, away and just stretch the legs straight out on the floor. If there's any other variation for Shavasana that you like, of course, you're welcome to try any other position, such as putting the legs up on a chair or your couch. Personally, if I have my legs in constructive rest like this, I might just let them come up, let the legs come apart a little bit and stay with the legs up on that bolster or pillow and just reach the feet out and come down so the backs of the heels are on the floor. That would be my suggestion or my choice if I were just doing Shavasana right now. So you can try that. Or as I said, stretch the legs straight out on the floor. Let the legs relax. And then any amount, angle the arms away from the body as long as they're below shoulder level. And turn the palms up. Let's start Shavasana with centering breath a few times. This is inhaling through the nose and very softly and quietly exhaling through the mouth. So let it be as long and slow a breath as you like. For a few rounds of centering breath. And then after a few rounds of centering breath, go back to breathing in and out through the nose, otherwise keeping the breath very soft and quiet. Staying in your Shavasana for a few more moments, start to release any tension or any feeling of holding on that you can sense in your body or your mind. So sometimes we just, fall into that same old storyline that we are always sort of telling ourselves. That would be an example of holding on to something in the mind. If you notice yourself doing that, just observe without judging yourself that you've done that again. And just say, hey, this time maybe I'll just let that go and see what comes up. Maybe nothing will come up. Maybe it'll just be a nice, restful feeling. Maybe something else will come up. Or maybe it's something in your body. You notice that your jaw is a little bit clenched, a little bit tense. Maybe the eyes, even if you have your eyes closed, sometimes we're still kind of trying to see something with our eyes, even though there's nothing to see. Maybe you can relax the eye muscles, let the eyeballs drop back into your eye sockets a little bit. Maybe the tongue can drop back towards the back of the mouth. Maybe the organs can drop down towards the floor. Maybe you can let the floor support you even more. Thank you so much for joining me for class today. If you want to stay in your Shavasana and relax a little bit longer, I hope you do. Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I will be ending the video stream in a moment. Whether you know this or not, I'm donating $5 per view of the live stream today to Campaign Zero. I'll put some info about it into the comments so you can find out more. It is an organization focused on ending police violence. So I urge you to find out more and find out more about how you can support those efforts. Thank you so much again for joining me. Namaste.